Thank you, Program Director. Can you hear me, colleagues?
Right, clear and clear.
Thank you very much. Greetings. Good morning, colleagues, ASFI members. It's my great pleasure to have been asked to come and introduce our first keynote speaker. My name is what appears on the screen. I'm greeting you from South Africa. Warm greetings from South Africa. I'm at Walter Sisulu University, the name Walter Sisulu, the Director for International Higher Education. I'm going to read the biography of our keynote speaker. Thereafter, I'm going to handle question and answer session. I would like people who have got questions and comments, please write those on the chat box. When we're handling those, I will ask the program director to assist me. Let me start reading the biography. Professor Emmanuel Igah is a professor at the IPEC Business School, Paris, France, and he hails from Nigeria. He holds a doctorate degree in economic geography and development planning from the University of Paris for Sorbonne, as well as an international Master of Business Administration from the International School of Management, Paris, New York, amongst others. Dr. Igah's professional experience spans across a wide range of industrial activities and engagements, as well as teaching over the past 3 decades. I'm sorry about that one. He started in the 80s as an assistant project manager in the Federal Capital Development Authority, Abuja, Nigeria, then still in its early stages of construction. His professional activities include consultancy missions on development-related projects with the United Nations, World Bank, European Union, as well as the Nigerian and French governments, which have taken him to a great number of countries in Europe, Middle East, Africa, and North America. He played a key role as a senior manager in the Escravos gas to liquids project, a $9 billion gas transformation mega plant in Delta State in southern Nigeria, for which the local contractors involved bestowed on him the Bridge Builder Award in recognition of his achievement in empowering the local communities through employments, subcontracts, capacity building, gender inclusivity, and corporate social responsibility. He is the editor of the Atlas of Nigeria, published for the federal government of Nigeria. He is also the publisher of the periodical compendium, Nigeria Handbook, Knowing Nigeria, which showcases Nigeria to investors, business leaders, academia, and administrators. Dr. Igah was conferred in 2001 with the French National Order of Merit Award for his outstanding professional achievements. Ladies and gentlemen, Professor Igah will be addressing us on the first keynote of this conference, and the keynote, the title is Unleashing Innovation in African Research. The time is now. Welcome, Prof. Igah. Welcome to ASFI 2024. We are greatly honored to have you here as our first keynote speaker. Over to you, sir. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody, fellow researchers and academics. I can see this platform is full of prominent people. I think I have rarely been into conferences like this, and this particular one is on Africa, in which we have such a high number of high-profile participants. And I'm very sure we're going to have a very productive cross-fertilization ideas from this conference and draw conclusions that will be useful to the uplift of the African continent, particularly through research programs. I want to thank ASFI. I think I heard some people call it, ASFI. The founder, Professor Bright-Nwaru, called it ASFI. So there are different approaches to the name of ASFI. I'll call it just simply ASFI, and I want to thank ASFI for organizing this very high-level event. This is really of international standard. You can go to anywhere in the world. This event will stand as one of the best quality events you can find. And so concerning Africa, so it's not always all bad news and negative things that are coming from Africa. And this one in particularly, since ASFI or ASFI is based in Europe, let me say this is a structure that serves as a bridge between the global north and global south, between Europe and Africa, which we need, particularly in terms of developing our technology, which basically will require some kinds of partnerships with people that are ahead of us and who are willing to collaborate with Africa in a constructive way. All right, so my presentation, I really don't know how much time I will have, but I'll try to be as quick as possible. I may not be presenting everything that I've planned for because the morning is already well spent. But we will leave some time, I guess, for some interaction with the participants so we can develop further.
Yes, Prof, Prof, you have up to 40 minutes, so you can use that as you want.
Okay, yeah. That comes as good information. It's good. Professor Bright-Nwaru came up with a definition of innovation, I think from the University of Oslo.
Yes,
in Denmark. And that was quite interesting. And there was another approach to the definition of innovation that you may have seen in the abstract that I sent out, and which I would like us to share very quickly. And that comes from the University of Pittsburgh Innovation Institute. It defines invention, first of all, because we do focus only on innovation. Most of the time we say innovation. But actually we forget that it is two sides of the same coin with invention. They usually go hand in hand. And innovation is actually the second stage from invention. So the University of Strasbourg Innovation Institute defines, first of all, invention as the creation of something never seen before, most often involving a new technology, materials, or process. But an invention has only a potential value added. Otherwise, it remains invention if it doesn't move to the next stage. And which means the invention can be pure, maybe made for pure research, just to get some kind of fundamental research objective fulfilled, and you don't go further than that. But where we come to the definition by the University of Oslo and the one of the University of Pittsburgh converging is this value added. When innovation has value added, that it has been used to do something that is beneficial to people, then it becomes innovation. It becomes innovation. Otherwise, it just remains an invention. When the value added and the impact are proven in people's lives, then invention becomes innovation. Innovation, therefore, is an outcome that brings about significant change in gainful use, in terms of gainful use. Well, this is interesting, and we do see a lot of efforts being made to invent. We talk about inventions, and actually we mix up, but no problem about that, provided what we are talking about is an invention that has been put to use, maybe in bettering the conditions of the society. So let me now go to what I wanted actually to present at the beginning. Then I said, well, probably let's just, because Professor Brighton has also talked about the definition, that I should, rather than present my first point, which is the overview of innovations, to bring the definition forward. And that has been done. So I'll be looking basically at a few major points. An overview on innovation. Then I'll be looking at the institutional development regarding innovations, practically about securing Africa's innovation. Africa's innovations in plural, probably. And then the next one will be to talk about how Africa is faring in the world innovation and invention landscape. We have seen a very instructive and informative presentation by Professor Brighton on this. So I may not have to go into details in that. He has done, practically done my work that I was doing this morning for me, and done it very, very well. So that will be the next point. And then I will be looking also at the international best practices regarding invention and innovation management, right? And then I will conclude with the way forward for Africa, or what in my opinion, is the way forward. And there may be other ideas, and we can have discussions around that. Now, when I was preparing this work, I was very excited to think that probably the first innovation in mankind would be a trail back to the beginning of, practically the beginning of mankind, when the Homo erectus, that is the early man, practically, living in the forest, the bush and all that, managed somehow to discover fire. And at that point, of course, it was a discovery. Probably he was trying to strike two stones together, and then he saw a spark, and then he said, well, but what is this? And then he went further, made the experiment, and then some fire came out of it. Maybe the grass was dry around the area. And then he now said, okay, well, how about at one point, maybe he said, well, how about we try to use this to do our cooking. And from then on, then he practically changed his food because he saw that if he can control the fire and cook his meat and cook other foods, that it came out tastier. And from then we now had the first application of fire, which now made that discovery by the early man an invention and innovation. Okay, so and we are looking at something, a development that must have taken place in Africa, because we are told Africa is the cradle of humanity, of civilization or humanity as a whole. That early man that first came up with the technique of using fire must have been an African in Africa. So that enables me to say the first fundamental pioneer innovation was made in Africa by the early man. So Africa has not been totally left out of the human history of innovations. In fact, we were at the starting point of it somehow. Then let me fast forward to a more recent era. In 1716, another development took place that involved an African, and it led to an innovation that was to revolutionize the treatment of epidemics across the world. I am looking at the contribution made by a certain Onesimus, a slave that was taken out of the African continent at that time. And his master or his owners happened to be a kind of big man in Boston, in Massachusetts. Then at that time, the smallpox epidemic was ravaging the population, and they didn't know what to do. They had no clue of what to do. They were just like dying, just like that. And Onesimus came to his master and said, well, we have been through this kind of experience in Africa, of course, before he was brought to America. And we tried to resolve the problem, and we came up with something. We took infectious material from the blisters on the body of the patients, of a patient, and we made a cut on the body of a person in good health, and we smeared that infectious material taken from the patient on the body of the healthy person. And what we noticed was that that healthy person that received that protocol did not develop the epidemic that was in question at that time in Africa, where he was. And that was also smallpox. And he said, well, he himself unfortunately caught smallpox, but they used that same technique to kind of bring him back to good health. That technique, the experts call it a variolation technique. And so his master was very surprised and shocked by this method that he was talking about. But he managed to convince his master, and his master talked to some medical professionals there, and they gave it a try. And they saw that it actually worked. And then that protocol now was applied on a wide scale in Boston. And then they saw the prevalence of smallpox diminishing significantly until the epidemic was wiped out in Boston. Then at some point, a medical professional, a doctor of English origin, who worked on this method that he learned from Onesimus, tried to do some scientific work on it, and then to perfect it, kind of, and then he came up with what has become today's modern days vaccine, what they call vaccine today. So from there, well, this is something that is administered in a more scientific way, and it's produced at a large scale, and they can use it to tackle smallpox and other diseases or epidemics that came after that. So I think it was in 1980 that World Health Organization declared that the planet was practically free of smallpox. But when all this talk was going on, very few people remembered Onesimus. And I'm sure if any patents were given down the line, his name was not associated with any of them. But Onesimus was an African. So this is another major contribution of Africa to innovation, which was happening at a global scale. And from there, we have had all sorts of vaccines. The case of COVID-19 was mentioned in the earlier presentations, and it was through vaccines that it was brought under control. So that was the experience of Onesimus. We have other examples, of course. You have heard about Graham Bell in the United States, who invented the telephone. And initially, it was an invention. He managed to get his voice from one point to another point, and talking, he was heard at the other point. And at that point, it was invention. Then it became an innovation when it was now put to use to connect the population in America, and now it was when it was taken all over the world. And so the father of communication today is recognized as Graham Bell. The Bell telephone system in the United States still exists and is one of the biggest operators in the world. We have also the example of James Watt, who came from the United Kingdom, who in 1969 came up with the steam engine, using coal, boiling water, producing high pressure steam from it, and then using it to turn mechanisms that initially were used to make train, the rudimentary train as of that time, to make it move. So the invention of the steam engine by James Watt was a very major development. It came at a time the Industrial Revolution was already in progress, and it came to amplify the Industrial Revolution and take us today to where we are. We are moving with cars. We are moving with moving goods with trucks, etc. Different transport systems that came from that invention that became an innovation at the point of time that it became generalized for transport and also for use in industry. Okay, so that's another example. Of course, we fast forwarding, we came to the stage whereby we had computer and internet invented as great milestones, which to take the same example that Dr. Brian Warren was taking today, we wouldn't have been here connected on this platform today without those innovations, internet and computer. Now, today we are going into the era of artificial intelligence, where not all innovations are used for positive purposes. In some cases, being the humans that we are, we do sometimes have the good mind, and sometimes we have the bad mind. And sometimes innovations that were made supposed to do mankind good were deviated from their author's initial objective and used to do other things that were destructive. And that was what happened to the Swedish chemist Alfred Nobel, who invented the dynamite. And when he invented the dynamite, and he saw, well, this is something that is good, is you can use explosives to, blow down hills or rocks or etc. that are given, constituting obstacles to the construction of roads and things like that. And so you can use the dynamite to facilitate the construction of infrastructure, okay? But somebody came with a different idea and said, but if we can use this to blow up hills, blow up all sorts of obstacles that are in the way of infrastructure that we are constructing, we probably can also use it in military, for military purpose, and use it in warfare, okay? So, and that was how we came into dynamite being used to produce bombs, grenades, all sorts of, in fact, missiles and all that, that are using the principle of explosives and dynamite, okay? So, and that, in fact, Alfred Nobel was, in his lifetime, able to see the destructive use of his invention, his innovation. And he was very sad about it, according to the story. And that was one of the reasons that led him to set up a foundation to kind of atone for his, the regrets he had, that something he innovated, brought to kind of help humans, has been turned into the purpose of destroying humans on different fronts. We've seen all wars, First World War, Second World War, and now we're having other wars like in Ukraine, Russia, etc., using weapons that are based on that simple principle. Not that simple though, because Alfred Nobel had to work it out. And so that was what brought into existence the Nobel Foundation and the Nobel Prize Awards. At least he did something to kind of compensate for what happened after his, the innovation he brought. So now let me go to the next point, which is about the institutions. Let me start by giving you my conclusion. Then I will do a little bit of development on it. My conclusion regarding the institutional preparedness of Africa in terms of innovation management. I think I can dare say that Africa has made tremendous progress. Africa seems to be institutionally sufficiently well organized at this point in time. But although they are still ramping up, but the key institutions are there. There are many countries that have, I'm talking about the protection of innovations, protection of inventions and innovations through copyright protections, the organizations involved in that. Many countries have their copyright organizations or intellectual property organization, to call it more precisely, I was privileged to have discussions with the Intellectual Property Organization of Nigeria in Abuja at some point in time. When I did some publication, a book that they mentioned earlier on, and I saw how well organized they were. I think most countries in Africa have that kind of structure to protect the inventions coming from their countries. At the international level, we have the World Intellectual Property Organization, the WIPO, World Intellectual Property Organization, which is like somehow like the United Nations of intellectual property. It's a central coordinating organ, and many countries that have intellectual property institutions are affiliated to it. And many African countries have their intellectual property organizations affiliated to WIPO. And it is functioning well. It helps to develop cooperation and to fasten the recognition of inventions and innovations coming from Africa, for example, because when you have invented or innovated, it's sometimes very difficult to get it recognized as an invention, as an innovation. There are sometimes people say, no, well, we don't think it's an original production. It's not, you probably are not the first, etc. So you have to do a lot of work to get that recognition. So under the WIPO, the International World Intellectual Property Organization, that seems to be improving because Africa is very active in that organization. We have also at the continental level, the African Intellectual Property Organization, AIPO, the French call it Organisation Africaine de la Propriété Intellectuelle. Its capital is in Yaoundé in Cameroon, and it's also coordinating efforts to protect our inventions and innovations in Africa. The last one that we should mention at the African continental level is the regional organizations, the regional organization of intellectual property protection. And that is ARIPO, ARIPO, that is the African Regional Intellectual Property Organization. It's based in Zimbabwe, so that's very good. The AIPO is based in Cameroon, and then ARIPO is based in Zimbabwe. So that is very good. Now, I think I can say that Africa is well equipped to have its innovations and inventions properly protected. Now, having said that, how is Africa, the next point, how is Africa faring in the world innovation and invention landscape? That takes me to talk about the patents, because this is how you can measure the progress in inventions and innovations. You have to have a yardstick, and one of the yardsticks is how many inventions or innovations are coming out of the continent, how many are being patented. Some inventions come out, and then the whole process of trying to get them recognized, sometimes it's cumbersome, as I said. So some don't get to the point of being recognized and registered as an innovation or invention. So I believe Africa has quite a number of that, especially as this involves some financial costs, okay, to fine-tune your invention, etc., and then be able to apply and defend your invention. So, but we look at how Africa is trying to resolve that. If you look at that standard of the number of patents, I did mention some of them in the abstract that was sent out. Let me just go back on that abstract. There was a study made in 2023 by the World Intellectual Property Organization, WIPO, that I had already described, and it covered several countries that are really moving in terms of innovation and invention. The country that came first in terms of the number of patents granted was South Africa in 2023, with just over 6,000 patents granted. Why I say just 6,000? 6,000 looks like a huge number. But now, well, that places South Africa in the 16th position in the world ranking. So you can see where we stand, and that is the country with the highest number of patents grants, okay? And I said only when you look at other countries, particularly the country that came first, which is China. This probably doesn't come as a surprise. And China came first in the world ranking of granted patents, with almost 700,000 patents granted by 2023. That is just last year. Almost 700,000. A country like the United States that came second was almost with half the number of Chinese patent grants. That is 327,000 approximately patents granted to the United States. And the third was Japan, with just over 184,000 patents granted. But when you are looking at these examples, and you are seeing the number of patent grants by the hundreds of thousands, and then you come to Africa and you see that South Africa has just like over 6,000 granted. So there is still a lot of work to do. So what are the challenges that are holding Africa back in the inventions and innovations? Well, very quickly, they include finance, which of course is mainly coming from the government and is insufficient. And we have very, very little private sector participation in the funding of research, very little. It's a culture, it's a tradition in the advanced countries. In France, where I'm talking from, the private sector is particularly involved in the finance of laboratories, funding of laboratories, and actually there is real partnership and cooperation between the laboratories and the companies in defining the research priorities, funding them, and seeing how they can come up with innovations that can be used in the companies that are funding, etc. Now, well, of course, the government funds for the good of the public generally. So finance is the major problem. I remember one lady, what's her name? Dr. Ruth Goodman or something like that. A lady that found herself with a huge fortune in the United States recently. And she was a professor in the Albert Einstein Institute of Medicine. So she was particularly interested in the training of doctors and medical personnel. And what she did, she had such a huge fortune with her husband. And they took 100 billion of their money and gave it to the University of Bronx. The University of Bronx has a lot of Black population there. And then she instructed that this money should be used to give all the students of medicine free tuition till they finish their courses. They will be granted a free tuition. And this is unlimited. So for as long as that money is there, and I'm very sure they're going to put it in some kind of account or foundation or something that will be yielding interest so that that money can regenerate itself. And when they announced it in the auditorium of that university, the big auditorium, there you could see the joy, the happiness of the students when they were just like, this is impossible. This is a miracle. So I'm saying this because we do have a good number of such extremely rich Africans, Well, some of them are making some efforts, but I think they need to take it to a higher level. There are across the continent. Well, some of them have not acquired their wealth through very recommendable means, but they do have the wealth. And I'm looking at a situation whereby we can get them interested in patronizing universities, patronizing specific laboratories, probably with their companies, like it is done in the advanced countries, etc., so that there will be more money for research. So that is the one aspect. The other part of the challenges we have is, of course, inadequate infrastructure. We have very few well-equipped laboratories in many African countries. Now, of course, this touches that issue of finance that we've just talked about. We have unreliable electricity supply, particularly in certain countries like Nigeria, where the country is not able to produce more than 500 megawatts or gigawatts of electricity for over 230 million people. I think a country like Egypt is making tremendous strides in this area. And South Africa, of course, is like practically able to cover its population's needs. So, but in many African countries, even in the Democratic Republic of Congo, where they have the barrage of Igah, what they call the barrage d'Igah, that is the Igah waterfall, Igah Dam, that they say can actually supply the entire Africa. Because of insecurity and instability, they are not able to meet their demands. And that is a main issue. When we talked about finance and talked about inadequate infrastructure and all that, it comes to the situation of many African countries. We have too many wars taking place, and instead of the countries plowing their hardened wealth into education, science and all that, then they are using it to wage wars, buying weapons and all that, which is a shame in Africa. So then we do have insufficient cooperation amongst the research institutions and with institutions. No, the research institutions within Africa, I mean, there isn't sufficient intra-African cooperation, and there isn't sufficient cooperation with research centers in other parts of the world. Thank God, if I may, we have research organizations like ASFI doing tremendous job from far away Sweden, and with branches all over in Africa. So that's where we should be going. We have the other issue, the other challenge, an insufficient development of research hubs, incubators, accelerators of research and development. That is not enough. We don't have enough. And so that is, those are areas that we should be looking at. Now, since I see time going, let me come to the international best practice. International best practice, in fact, before I say that, well, all is not bad, all is not black in terms of achievements of Africa in innovation and achievements and inventions. So a lot is happening in the fintech area and in the communication field. African countries like Nigeria, Egypt, South Africa, Cameroon, Kenya, Democratic Republic of Congo, to mention these few, are particularly dynamic in innovations in these areas of fintech and communication. In Kenya, we had a recent example of a structure, joint venture structure being put in place between Kenyans and their main phone operator there, Vodafone, which they came together with Vodafone taking 40% of the holding, and then the Kenyans taking 60% to come up with a smartphone-based application called M-Pesa, which is used for quick transfer of monies for all sorts of transactions to pay and this and that, which fastens the business across the country. And now it has been spread out to other countries in the region and beyond. So it's really gaining ground. That is M-Pesa. Then international best practices. Well, one of the ways is for us to understudy what is going on in other parts of the world, which are probably more advanced than us. Sometimes there is no need to invent the wheel. And what the advanced parts of the world have done is to develop clusters. They've developed clusters, and in a country like France, they've developed what we call here the technopolises. They call it in French technopole, or in English technopolises. Clusters are more like American. So the example that everybody knows in the world is Silicon Valley, okay, in California. And other clusters have developed across prestigious universities like Berkeley, MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology, Harvard University, etc. Now, it doesn't mean we must jump from where we are now to become Harvard, MIT, and what do you call it, Silicon Valley. But what you will see there is that there is a common denominator. There are very powerful universities in the middle of these clusters, like Stanford in the California area, and well, of course, Harvard and the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. And this is the concept of clusters, bringing companies and academic institutions where research is the focus to be together, to work together, and develop projects. And what you see as the final outcome is that there are practically inventions coming out of those clusters every day, almost every day, I can tell you that. In France, we have the technopoles or technopolises, and they've demonstrated their effectiveness in as technology-driven private-public partnership institutions or sites. And there are many of them around France. Let me just name Sophia Antipolis, Technopolis, which brings together 2,500 companies, 2,500 companies in one region, one site. And at the center of that is a university. It's a university and business schools that are there. So practically they are working together. The companies are working together with the labs of these academic institutions. They are developing projects together, and the results are practically going immediately back to the companies to be used in their development. So that is one example. Another very prominent example is Saclay Plateau Technopolis, which is highly reputed. And you have the University of Osse at the center of that, and then you have a lot of companies around. They are working together. Some of the companies that you probably have heard about, like Dassault, which is building aircrafts, military aircrafts. You've heard of Thales, which is building also military hardware, high tech and all that. So they are all around Saclay Technopolis. And I can tell you that several Nobel Prizes have come out of, Nobel Prize laureates have come out of Saclay Technopole or Technopolis. That is collaboration between academic and corporate organizations, okay? So that is something I think can be used in Africa as a concept. I think some countries have tried to develop that at a smaller scale. I heard about an experiment or so that was taking place in Abuja. That is the Abuja, what do you call it? Well, Abuja Business Park or Industrial Park, which is working together with the University of Abuja. I think they've been there on it for several years. They should have gone further than they are now, but there isn't enough money coming in. So to conclude, yes, I'm concluding. I'm concluding now.
Please,
yes, to conclude, the main problem is our educational base. So we need money to develop education. UNESCO says countries should dedicate 25% of their national budget to educational sector. Most African countries are not able to meet this target. They are, in fact, most of them are below 10 or 15%. Nigeria, precisely, I found out last week, is not doing better than 6.3% of its budget being given to education. I found out about South Africa, they are somewhere about 18.5%. They are not yet meeting the target fixed by UNESCO. And when you talk of education, I want a focus to be placed on the STEM education. STEM is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics education. That is where we must be going now in Africa, if we want to revolutionize innovation in Africa. So my concluding statement, unleashing innovation in African research, the time is now. But in the real sense, the time should have been long ago. Why are we waiting till 2024 to say the time is now? The time should have been long ago. But however, the French say, mieux vaut tard que jamais. Translation, better late than never. Better late than never. So it's still good. We are thinking about doing something to ginger innovation and research in Africa. So my last word, let's go down, get down to work, and let's get going, because it's not too late, even though we should have done this long ago. Thank you very much. And I'm willing to respond to any queries or contributions. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. I'm so happy and fortunate that you and I are friends on One Africa initiatives. And I always enjoy what you post there and how we can engage what you are posting, especially around defending our identity as Africans. Colleagues, I believe you will all have noted what Prof said. I will just make a few remarks. I won't go into details because we're way beyond time. I just want to draw your attention to the fact that what I picked up as my take-home points from Prof's presentation, I summarized those on the chat box, and I summarized those in the form of questions. 5 take-home points. which I then summarize them as questions to us as researchers. I like the point that Prof introduced somewhere, that we need to build strong and resilient structures which need to defend our innovations and inventions, especially in the complexity of power relations and the politics of knowledge. Because the notion about Onesimus, who had his African experience and he could export it to USA, but now that idea was politicized and weaponized around the politics of knowledge, then relegated Onesimus and being an African into some kind of oblivious status. How do we revisit those discourses in a manner that we can defend our identities? And thank you so much that we have got ASFI as has been in place since 2021. This is the vision of ASFI. This is why we're doing this. Prof couldn't have much time because I could see that he's got more energy now towards the conclusion. How I wish he could have more time. Thanks a lot, Prof. Let me hand over to my boss, Prof. Wright, to make words of acknowledgement. Thank you very much, Prof. A round of applause again. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Valile, and then Prof. Emmanuel Igah. I am really humbled, first of all, that you accepted to make this presentation despite your very busy schedule. Like Dr. Valile said, I also met you at the One Africa Initiative, and the vision we have here is something that African Science Frontiers Initiative has. How do we restore our place in global reckoning? I am happy that your presentation was very basic. You used very simple languages, and then you took invention innovation to where it started, reminding us that this is not new to Africa. Africa has been in the business way even before other continents found their way. And I think your concluding part that we should have started yesterday, but it is better late than never. I think that is very motivational, that we can go back to where we used to be. Thank you very much. I think you have given us several points to reflect, and I am hopeful that we'll call you again and then you will respond positively to us. Thank you. Much appreciated.